Hey, yo, man, what's going on? It's Jae Skeese, the separation of Jordan Mids and Jordan Highs. You now tapped into the Renaissance Radio Show, man. You already know we here. Drum work music, first class. Let's get it.
All right, so you guys are now tuned in to the Renaissance Show. My name is Alex Kuchma, and I have here with me yet another very special guest, drum work music artist, fresh off his new album Revolver Ocelot, fresh off the tour Love Will Get You Killed with Conway the Machine. I'm talking to Jae Skeese. What's good, my dude?
Peace, peace. What's going on with you? How you feel?
Oh, man, I'm doing amazing on my end here. First off, and I said this at the beginning of the call as well, but thank you so much, man, for taking the time out of your day to speak to me. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be a good one.
For sure, man. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Man, so we fucked up a little bit here, and I ended up not recording some of that original audio, but we were talking about the Revolver Ocelot album. It's available on Audiomack, but where can people pick up this album if they want a physical copy of it?
Word. So I did a physical CD sale. It was like a week and a half ago or something like that, a couple weeks ago, on my Bandcamp, and I'm gonna do another one soon. And also, I do plan to release the project on vinyl as well. So that's some stuff that I'm like getting finalized. But just keep your eyes peeled. If you have me on Instagram at Jae Skeese, I'm definitely gonna sell what I have left from the tour as far as physical CDs, and then just keep your eyes peeled as well for those vinyl copies as well.
Man, it's a really, really solid body of work. And for those listening at home, if you're listening to this on the radio, you're going to be hearing select songs from it anyhow. But if you're listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube, take the time, pause this video, listen to Revolver Ocelot in full. It's short, it's 35 minutes in length. Then come back to this conversation. One, I think it's worthy of a listen. It's a really solid piece of work. And two, it'll help kind of contextualize this conversation going forward. But man, yeah, what a beautiful album, and just a piece of work and a representation of yourself. And I think that's kind of what we were talking about in a lot of ways, right? Like, I think you as a drum work artist, as a part of this movement, this kind of Renaissance period that we're in, I think you offer something a little bit unique and different to the table. It's not necessarily just this one-dimensional kind of crack rap and drug references over and over and over again. Don't get me wrong, I love that type of music, but I think that you offer something a little bit unique to that kind of palette, but not kind of so aesthetically different that it turns people off. I think you kind of fit in this same pocket. If you're a fan of Conway, if you're a fan of a lot of the other artists in this movement, I think you're going to be a fan of Jae Skeese as well. But I do think that you end up offering something a little bit different. And then as we were talking about, I think that this album, Revolver Ocelot, I feel like this is a kind of, I think it captures who you are as a person, right? It captures those different dimensions of you and what you offer, you as an artist, and just as a creative contributing art to this movement. I feel like this is a really good kind of jumping off point if people are coming in from, say, Lamakwana or I don't know, From a King to a God or other Conway projects, and they've heard your name, but they haven't necessarily checked out an entire body of work. I feel like Revolver Ocelot ends up being a really good representation and a really good kind of first introduction to your art.
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree there. I think with Revolver Ocelot, you kind of get a full spectrum of who I am just as an artist. You know what I mean? I like to tell different stories. I like to use different concepts. I like to, man, I just like to, as opposed to just keeping it, like you said, one dimensional. I like to, when I create like these different songs and, when I'm writing these bars, I don't like to limit myself. You know what I mean? That's in terms of subject matter. That's in terms of the types of beats that I use. You know what I mean? Like, I'm primarily boom bap, but if I hear something that catches my ear, I know we said earlier, like, there's a couple tracks on there that may sound more like almost like trappy. If it's dope, I'm fucking with it. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna talk my shit on that joint. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what kind of, at the end of the day, it's gonna kind of separate me just as an artist from, that original Griselda sound. But it's still, like you said, it's in that same like family. It's in that same vein because we're all from the same place. I just provide a different perspective. You know what I mean?
Man, 100%. Talk about, I guess, some of the reception in terms of your fan base over the years. So the last time that we ended up speaking was earlier this year. It was maybe February or March or so, and I'm not sure exactly when La Maquina ended up dropping, but at that point, From a King to a God had already dropped. But you, as an artist, as a solo artist, have been putting out work over the last few years on a fairly kind of regular basis. You have songs, you have projects that you've put out under your name. When an album like From King to a God drops, or an album like La Maquina drops, what has that kind of done? Have you noticed that like immediately overnight in terms of just people kind of checking on you in a kind of a different way? How has your fan base kind of grown in response to some of those projects that aren't necessarily you, but have people that you're fucking with on there?
Right. I mean, it's definitely a thing where, obviously, From King to a God, it was like people didn't even know who I was. And then, I'm on this amazing album and I'm on there twice. And, same thing with La Machina, I'm on there 3 times. So, obviously it's like, hold on, wait a minute, like who is this dude? You know what I mean? And I think that curiosity has definitely really kind of helped boost my fan base, because I went from earlier this year, I think I might have had 3,000 followers, like on Instagram, to now I'm almost at 13,000. So, that exposure has definitely helped, at least increase my fan base in a lot of different ways, even though, I have been putting in work for a long time. But, it's different when, as opposed to, doing it by yourself, doing it independent, to where, and then to, sign a record deal and be with, one of the hottest, names in the industry right now. You know what I mean? And so it's definitely increased and boosted my fan base. And it also has kind of put a microscope, on, my artistry, and people listen with more intent now. I think that's the big thing. Like, they want to really dissect, and they really want to listen, and they want to hear, and they want to, check for the bars. They want to check for the artistry. They want to check for the sounds. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that I've actually looked forward to, because it shows that people are being attentive to my art, to the things that I put together, to my thoughts and my creativity. And, a lot of artists, with me being an artist myself, and talking to other artists, that's like the ultimate, validation of, just, knowing that what you're doing is actually, you're gaining traction, and, you're on the right path to becoming successful and doing what you love to do, as, the way that you take care of yourself. You're making a livelihood off of what you love to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And I've noticed that on a kind of a fan kind of standpoint as well. Like I try to involve myself as much as I can in this community. I'm in the Griselda Facebook groups. I'm in kind of the Griselda Discord channels, and kind of just not just Griselda related, but just underground hip hop kind of circles and collectors kind of circles. And I see this sort of excitement starting to escalate and starting to kind of pick up steam and kind of chug along as the year ends up going on, and as the last few years have really ended up going on when it comes to this entire movement. But even something like, you just ended up getting off the Level Get You Killed tour, and you're handing out these Revolver Ocelot CDs, and you're signing them, and you're engaging with the fans in that sort of way. And I'm seeing people take that material home, post about it in the groups, and show that kind of excitement to the rest of the world, and then have the people that aren't necessarily able to make it to those shows, haven't heard the music, because at this period of time it wasn't even available on Audiomack, so you really had to get the physical copy if you wanted to hear the music. And people are starting to inquire about what it sounds like. You gotta like tell us about this record in different ways, and kind of engage with that sort of excitement. And that's from, as an artist, it's Jae Skeese, right? This is different than just Conway or Benny the Butcher or West Side Gun or kind of the major kind of players in this thing. This is you. This is Jae Skeese, and people are genuinely excited to engage with this art. And yeah, as you said, just really be attentive and dissect it on a real kind of authentic level, right? I feel like they're treating the art as serious, right? As authentic, and not disposable in the way that music is often kind of consumed in this sort of way these days. It feels different. It feels more sincere, I guess.
No, and that's a fact. And the reason why I think is because it's just the caliber of MC and artists that I'm associated with, and that's a good thing because with Conway bringing us, me and Love the Genius and all the other artists that are associated with drum work and Griselda, with him bringing us into the fold, it's like people are looking like, hold on, you guys are already dope. Like, who are y'all bringing in now? This can either go really good or it can go really bad. You know what I mean? So to be accepted, and because obviously Griselda has a cult following. You know what I mean? Like the people that are fans of Griselda, like the majority of their fans, it's a cult following, and it's really hard to break through that mold and break through with the people that have loved them for the last few years, just for the sound that they put out and everything. So, for people to accept me, that fan base to kind of accept me and, become more familiar and get excited, to hear what I have to say. Again, it just goes back to that validation, and it goes back to, just knowing that, I'm on the right path. You know what I mean?
Man, 100%. And we were talking about this as well, but I think it extends beyond just Griselda. I do think that this, like, the name of this show is the Renaissance Show, and that's what I've often heard this kind of referred to as. But there's this new wave of music, and sure, you can talk about influences and kind of aesthetic patterns, whatnot, but there is something really special about what we've seen over the last 5-6 years, and this movement that's really been able to cultivate, and the art that's being produced within this movement, I feel like is really special. And as a fan of hip-hop, and I've been doing hip-hop journalism in one way or another, let it be magazines or radio or YouTube channels or just different writing for different blogs, for well over 10 years, maybe 13, 14 years or so, and I've been tapped into hip-hop because of that. And I gotta say, as much as I loved hip-hop in 2010 and 2009, throughout the entirety of my life, I've loved hip-hop, there's something special about what's happening recently. Like, it's giving me the same sort of excitement as when I was in high school and listening to the classics for the first time, walking to high school there and back and having Mobb Deep in my headphones, listening to The Infamous for the first time, or Hell on Earth, or just like vibing out to like 456 by Cool G Rap, right? And really letting those records sit with me and absorb. I get the same sort of excitement now when someone like yourself, or someone like Conway, or someone like Flea Lord, or someone like Riggs from The Cloth, whenever these people put out new albums, I get the same sort of excitement, and I feel like I'm living in this new golden era. I feel like in 20, 30 years, when we look back as hip-hop fans, we're going to say what happened here over these last few years is truly special. There is something special that's happening, and it's not just boiling it down to, oh, Griselda has fanboys, right? Like, it's not, if there's something greater than, say, I don't know, like your One Direction or Taylor Swift fans that really cultivate, right? Like, it's truly great art, and I think fans of hip hop are going to be able to recognize that when generations kind of pass, if they're not already. And I feel like a lot of this underground scene is tapped in in a major way, right? It's not just even just listening to the music and going on Twitter and talking about it, right? Like, it's buying every piece of wax that comes out. It's buying all the merch. It's being actively engaged in this movement and celebrating the art for what it is. I think it's like, this is an incredible time to be a hip-hop fan, an incredible time to be a hip-hop artist, especially someone like yourself that's contributing and able to have access to this scene in such a kind of direct way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, man. And, I consider myself to be, I pray to God every day, you know what I'm saying? And just thank him for, bringing me this opportunity, because this is something that I've worked and prayed for, a majority of my life, you know what I mean? And, you know, like you said, this is definitely a great time to be a hip hop artist, to be a hip hop fan. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm a fan first. You know what I mean? So, you know, I've been a fan of hip hop for a very long time, and you know, the good thing about, and actually the great thing about Griselda is that not only did they kind of pave a way for a lot of artists who, you know, they were in the game, but you know, they weren't using, you know, the sort of beats that Griselda were using, or they weren't, you know, going necessarily with the exact same subject matter that Griselda was talking about. But once they kind of broke through and broke the mold, because, you know, at the time when they came out and they started to become more of a household name, you know, there weren't really many rappers or rap groups that were really using that sound. I don't think anybody was, you know, the boom bap sound. It was pretty much dead unless we're talking about the underground. So for them to kind of break through and to, you know, be able to break through into mainstream hip hop and create a lane for a lot of those other rappers and other rappers who, you know, have come up under them or with them, I think it's amazing, like you say, you know what I mean? Because again, it's creating a pathway for me. It's creating a pathway for other rappers who, you know, I don't know if Griselda doesn't come along and do what they've done. I don't know if they're as successful as they are today. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But Griselda has definitely had a hand in, you know, creating a lane for a lot of different artists and not just themselves. And the way that they did it, the way that they've done it, the way that they're doing it is groundbreaking, man. And it's amazing, honestly. And I'm fortunate to, you know, be able to be a part of this whole movement.
It's huge. I think I have yet to speak to anybody that doesn't end up putting Griselda at the top of why this movement is the way it is, right? We can talk about people like Rock Marciano or people like Planet Asia or people like Havoc and Mobb Deep or DJ Muggs that has been kind of contributing to this in a really important way as well. But Griselda has shaped this entire kind of subculture of what this is, right? You can have musical influences from people like Rock Marciano, for sure, but Rock Marciano was putting out records like Reloaded and whatnot in 2012 and generating a buzz internally within the underground scene, but not doing it in the way that Griselda is, not doing it in the way that we see other rappers emulating Griselda are doing it, right? They weren't treating the vinyl record as a real piece of art, right? The OB strips, the attention to detail, the test pressings, all these things weren't necessarily available at that period of time. These are new things that have kind of popped up. The way of very, very limited vinyl runs instead of going through major distribution chains like Fat Beats or Underground Hip Hop and selling your art that way and not really caring about quantity, right? Wanting to put out as many records as people are going to possibly buy. There's an approach to this in almost every way, not just the business, but the music as well, right? We talk about music that was happening in 2013, 2014 in the underground scene. I think people like Jedi Mind Tricks and Army of the Pharaohs, Demigods, Self-Titled, Apathy, I think those guys were really kind of the pinnacle of what was happening at that period of time in terms of underground hip-hop. But aesthetically, it was far different than what we see once that Griselda kind of shift starts occurring. You had a lot of, it was almost kind of a throwback 90s sound before with more aggressive rhymes in a lot of ways. So you had the DJ cuts on almost every album, which you don't really see anymore. You had kind of a vibe to the old kind of the aesthetic of the instrumental and the beat, the music itself. It spoke a little bit differently. Now it's like just super grimy and slow and just it's this menacing kind of chugging along, and it's so dope. And then you see people that are teetering with that sound, like yourself, and playing with it a little bit and stepping slightly outside the box, but still within that kind of zone or within that vibe, and doing something different with it. I just ended up interviewing MeFux, who put out that new album with JNX, and he's a Lord Mob artist, and it sounds different. They're able to, I guess, within this scene, we talk about it, and it has kind of an aesthetic stamp to it, this whole movement, but each artist is bringing something creative and unique in their own to it. There's so many kind of iterations of style. It's a truly kind of, like, I say this all the time, but it's a beautiful time to be kind of a fan of this shit. It's great. It's great art, but everything that's being produced in it is just it's fantastic. I'm big fan. Big fan.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, man, I agree with you. Like to be in this, as all this stuff is happening, to kind of be in the middle of it and to be a part of it. Again, man, I consider myself blessed, man. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of people that would like to be a part of this, and it's going to continue to grow, I believe, too. So, I always tell people,
so.
especially from Buffalo, or even if you're not from Buffalo, if you're just a fan of the movement. I met a lot of people on tour that were artists, and they were saying how they've been chasing their dream as well. And it's like, man, you just have to keep going. You know what I mean? Because this movement is only going to continue to grow. And at the rate that it's going right now, it can only continue to grow. That's the thing, because there's new fans every day. There's new people getting put on every day. So it's like, man, if it's a beautiful time. Like you said, I agree with you 100%.
Man, I've talked to a lot of people that are kind of an older generation. So say they were rapping in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then they kind of put a stop to things a lot and slowed down. They focused on family. They just did other shit with their lives. And seeing what Griselda has done, seeing what this new kind of wave has produced in terms of art and the direction that art has went, I've talked to a lot of these people, and their general response is, I wasn't really fucking with the type of music that was being produced, and I didn't feel like I really belonged until I heard this shit. And I was like, oh man, that's the art I always wanted to create. And there wasn't really an avenue for me to create that art. And now there is. So I'm back at it, and I'm doing this full circle again, and I'm trying to kind of engage with this art in a kind of my own way. I have that conversation a lot with older heads, and that's the type of reception that I get. It feels like not only are we in this great moment in hip hop, but it feels like people are starting to recognize what kind of special moment we're actually in and take notice of it and start to kind of reflect on what this could possibly be. But I do truly think that in 30, 40 years, generations down the line, we're going to be looking back at this and saying, this was like a new golden era of rap music, and there's maybe 500, 1,000 different artists that are contributing to this thing in such a major way. Because that's another thing. Like in the 90s, you didn't have that many artists that were contributing to that kind of that 90s New York sound that people are still kind of going after and digging for, right? You had a few kind of key players and crews and collectives, but with the internet and how kind of global everything is now and how kind of accessible music is, you now have just like an absurd number of individuals actually creating art, and in a lot of cases it's really, really good art. I think one of the big differences is the producer game. You end up seeing a lot of people in France, in the Netherlands, in Spain, just these foreign producers that are tapped right into this movement and making incredible music, and then having artists in the US on a major level that are fucking with these people. Like someone like Big Ghost, for example. Big Ghost, he's out in Japan, he's doing his own thing, but he's able to contribute to this movement in such a sincere and authentic way that it never feels corny, it never feels out of place. You don't even really associate it with Japanese hip hop. You just associate it with good quality hip hop. And that didn't happen before. Like, if some Japanese dude was making music in the 90s, in the US, people would just associate that with Japanese hip hop, and there would be a divide there. But that divide has been broken down in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. And it's funny that you mentioned Big Ghost, because me and Big Ghost actually got something in the works right now. Shout out to Big Ghost.
Oh, man.
So, be on the lookout for that, for sure.
Man, that's incredible. Big Ghost has been on an incredible run recently. I just spoke to Eddie Kane, and he put out that A Tree Grows in Brooklyn record, but working with Conway on those multiple projects, working with UFO Thieve and Mooch and Riggs, and just that whole kind of slew of albums that Big Ghost has put out recently. He's on an incredible run, and I love the sound that he's going with this movement. Again, he has his own unique kind of palette and sound to him, but it works within this movement at the same time. Man, that's really exciting. I didn't know that you had any project in the works with Big Ghost. When is that dropping? Can we have any kind of details about that?
Actually, no, it's not really any details just yet.
Sure.
But you know, it's in the works. It's actually funny. I was in the studio earlier today. I laid down 2 tracks, for the record. But no release date or anything like that. We're still creating. We're still messing around with sounds, and you know, I'm still writing bars. But you know, just know it's coming soon, and it's a bar fest, and I'm talking my shit all over this record. You know what I mean?
Man, that's one of the best pieces of news I've heard in a long time. I'm super stoked for that album, and I hope that it does end up materializing in general, but also materializing into a full project rather than kind of a little short EP or something of that sort. I'd love to be able to pick that up on wax and have it up on the wall and really kind of celebrate and enjoy that release. That's really really exciting. One of the things I want to talk to you about is the Love Will Get You Killed tour. I again, as a fan in Nova Scotia, Canada, I'm not in the States. I'm not really able, especially with COVID, not really able to engage with a tour like that. But from afar, I've seen the reception of it. I've watched the Instagram live videos. I've watched the YouTube clips that people have uploaded later. I'm in tune in terms of the underground hip hop groups on Facebook and whatnot, and people are sharing their own experiences. And wow, what a tour. It really feels like that's like one of the craziest and best tours ever, right? We talk about something like the New York show when Flea Lord came out, when Method Man came out, and then Redman came out afterwards, and they did the Rockwilder, and then it's just like the slew of characters that are coming and showing support to you guys in the movement that you guys have created is truly astonishing. Tell me about your experience on the Love Will Get You Killed tour and what that was like as a fan and as an artist, obviously on the tour.
Man, absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? So this was the first tour that I've ever been a part of. I've been, you know, doing shows around the US for a long time, but never was on tour, never did a consecutive run of shows like this. And big first thing, shout out to Conway, because without Conway, you know, obviously none of this would be going on. None of this would happen. And a lot of those artists came out, you know, for Conway, of course, and, you know, for drum work, man. And Conway is just, man, he's such an awesome dude, man. You know what I mean? And I'm just grateful, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of everything. But, you know, the Love It Gets You Killed tour, for me has been definitely a learning experience, because I had no idea what it would be like to be on tour, to go to all these different cities from the East Coast of the U.S. to the West Coast, and receive love everywhere that I've been. You know what I mean? Yeah. So with COVID being last year in 2020, you know, nobody had did shows for almost a year and a half, almost, you know, it had been almost 2 years. Yeah. For me anyway. And so to be, you know, on the road, and after, you know, you hear From King to a God, the Deluxe, and you hear La Machina, you know, and I'm touring with the artist whose tour it is. So I didn't know that, you know, anywhere we went, people would know me by face, know me by name, and that they would be excited to meet me, excited to see me. They would want me to sign their hats and their hoodies, their shirts, their CDs, their vinyls. You know, I had a few people tell me they love me. I had a few people tell me that they listen to certain songs of mine every single day. I had, you know, people like, you know, almost in tears, you know, ready to meet me and to take pictures with me and shake my hand, and, you know, shaking when they meet me. So it was a different experience being up on the stage, and the fans knowing my words, and I'm rapping and they're rapping with me word for word. I'm, you know, connecting with people, you know, just on stage, and, you know, we're exchanging energy in that way. It's a different experience as opposed to me going places and performing and trying to win fans over, as opposed to going and performing and fans already being fans of me. So the energy is just already there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. Yeah.
No, it really is.
Hearing you speak on that, it's obviously there's a sense of flattery that comes with that, right? You go on tour and you see people's reaction to your own art, and there's a sense of, flattery, confidence that comes with that. But I feel like also coming home from that experience and reflecting on that has to sort of change the direction of how you approach art, right? This is an entirely different experience of how you see people engaging with your art. So it must sort of change the direction that you want to take when you sit there and craft the art as well, knowing that people are listening on this sort of level. Talk about that a little bit, especially like you said today, you're in the studio, you're recording songs for that big Ghost project. How are you kind of internalizing the direction of how you kind of make art after coming off a tour like that and seeing that response?
Right. I mean, it just makes me want to go that much more hard now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, again, like I was saying earlier, it's like the ultimate validation and like the ultimate, okay, this is actually working. You know what I mean? Like you chase your dream for so long. It's almost like an NFL player getting to the league finally, right? You get drafted and you're on the team and you go out and, you know, you catch your first couple passes. And so the next week you go out and you want to catch more passes. And in that next game, you get a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, damn, this is what this feels like. All right, now I want to get 10 touchdowns in the season. You hit 10 and it's like, okay, now I want 20. You know what I'm saying? So it really fuels me to get that love, and I just want to go more hard now. I want the next time I go on tour to be that much more crazy. I want them to know every lyric, every song. I want them to buy every shirt, every hat, every hoodie that I bring with me in terms of merch. It makes you, it puts a fire under you.
Just stretch that goalpost.
It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's tiring. You get frustrated. But at the end of the day, you know, you're doing it for a bigger purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's for the art, it's for the fans, and it's for you at the end of the day too. So, you know, nothing in life is easy. You know what I'm saying? It was times on the tour where, you know, I did get frustrated, or I would get mad, or, you know, whatever the case. But, you know, it was all in behind, you know, me learning and me just taking this experience and, you know, doing it for the first time. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Man, as a fan of you, I'm so happy to be able to see that success and that reception. Like I said, I was tuned in on the Facebook groups and seeing people's excitement over the art that you were making and the impact that you were making in their own kind of musical careers or journeys, right? Exploring this art and trying to get into it. It was really, really nice to see. And I think that in general, when we talk about this movement, that's something that I feel like is really important to kind of emphasize. I think it was really hard for people to make any sort of waves in the music scene prior. And I'm not saying that work doesn't have to be done now or it's easy, but I do feel like this new wave has opened the doors for people to have an avenue to make art and to make a living off of making the art in a really meaningful way. The vinyl sales are real at this point, even the CD and tape sales, right? Like Conway has that line on From a King to a God where he says, I do your streaming numbers with the vinyl and the CD, right? Like there's something truly like special about that. And to see seeing fans support and then seeing artists being able to actually eat off of the art that they end up making in a meaningful way and get a paycheck that's not insignificant is really, really special. And I'm so happy for the artists that are a part of this thing as well. It's great to see. Talk about some of the work that you have coming up. So you mentioned the Big Ghost project, and obviously Revolver Ocelot is what we're talking about today. And if you haven't listened to that album, take your time, listen to Revolver Ocelot. It's available on Audiomack now. That said, what are you currently kind of working on and going forward? What do you plan on releasing over the next couple years?
Man, so I mean, obviously I got my my drummer debut album, Abolish Uncertainties. It's pretty much done. It's mixed. I got my couple features on there. It's good to go. So what I'm working on right now is just getting that joint out. So hopefully, you know, we'll see that either at the end of the year or top of next year. Dope. I have, you know, obviously the Big Ghost project that I'm working on right now. That joint is going to be stupid. Also, as I was working on Revolver Ocelot, like I said, I put that together. It was 2 weeks before the tour in August. I was at the same time in the studio working on another project with my homie Billy Esco. And you may be familiar with
Dude,
him as well.
I
He's one of
sure
my best
am.
friends. Yeah, for sure. So
He's
he was
dope.
just on side B. He was on why Will I Do Him Like That on the
He's on
West
the
Side
new
Gun album.
he's on the new El Camino album as well. He was on Mizark's latest
Yeah,
album.
yeah, for sure. He's on there as well. He's on the intro. Um, Me and him put together a tape in memory of our one of our best friends who actually passed away on July 5th. My man Weez. Shout out to my man Weez. And he was actually, it's crazy. He was my best friend for 20 years, and he was actually coming with me on the tour to sell my merch and to help me out on the tour. And he actually ended up passing away right before the tour. So shout out to my man Weez. But we put together a tape. It's called God Body. So me and him will be dropping that collaborative tape under the name First Class. We've been a group. It's a few other members as well, but we've been a group for a long time. And we put that tape together and said it's time to come back together, man, and put something together for the homie Weez, man. You know what I mean? And so that'll be out soon as well. We got some visuals and we got the actual tape coming out soon. We got Mitch Arizona on there. We got OG Soul on there. We got Camouflage Monk on there. We got Drop Dead on there. We got the homie Karan on there. So that joint is going to be heavy. You know what I'm saying? And then also we do have the Drumwork compilation, and that's in the works as well. That's going to feature, everybody affiliated with Drumwork and maybe a few other cats on there as well. So, we got a lot of work coming up, man, for sure.
Man, I wanted to ask about the Drumwork compilation because I know, okay, so Black Soprano Family have been putting out kind of compilation albums and with Trust and Black Soprano Family. Griselda obviously has put out the Griselda album, WW or WCD or whatever. But we haven't got anything from Drumwork. And I spoke to Lucky Seven a few weeks ago, and he had mentioned that there was conversations within the crew about putting something like that together, but that he wasn't sure where that project ended up kind of lying. Can you detail anything at all about this Drumwork compilation album? Because the roster that you guys have curated, or maybe Conway has curated, I'm not really sure the kind of hierarchy there and who runs shit, but the roster nevertheless is amazing. It's so good. And every time somebody gets signed to Drumwork that I'm not familiar with, I do my homework, I check out the art, and every time it's always unique. It's a different flair, but it's so good in of itself, and it just provides me with so much enjoyment as a fan, as a music fan. What is the conversation like in terms of that Drumwork compilation album?
No, for sure, man. I know as far as the compilation, man, we started working on a few records earlier in the year. Actually, if you remember, I don't know if you saw the interview with Ebro that Conway did right after La Machina came out, but the original plan was Grace was actually supposed to go on the compilation. But the song was he said the song was so hot, he was like, man, I got to put this on my album. And so that's how Grace ended up on that album.
And Grace was one of the cuts that you were off of, right? You were on Grace, right?
Yeah, Grace was one of the joints that I was on. And man, that's, in my opinion, one of the most fire tracks on the album, to be honest, man. That joint, that's one of the joints right there. But I know we were talking about some different things in terms of the compilation. We're still working on it, honestly, but we were talking about it briefly on the tour. While I forget what city we were in, but we kind of talked about it for a second. It's definitely still in the works, and there's plans to do it, but we just got to all sit down and make it all make sense and get time to just kind of all patch in and tap in and work on it. That's all it really is at the end of the day.
Fair enough. We can wrap things up there, but where can people find you? Where can people stay up to date with current music?
For sure, man. You already know, man. You can tap in with me on Instagram, on Twitter at Jae Skeese, JaeSkeese. I have my full discography on my Bandcamp. It's JaeSkeese716, JaeSkeese, the number 716.bandcamp.com. You can tap in with me there. You can also listen to Asphalt Calligraphy. That's on all streaming platforms. It came out in September of 2020. And then I have my newest project, Revolver Ocelot. That's out right now exclusively on Audiomack. You can stream it. Definitely go download it. Definitely go stream it. I'll have the rest of the physical copies up on my Bandcamp soon, so make sure y'all go and follow me. You know what I'm saying? And also tap in with me on YouTube. My channel is Jae Skeese716.
Man, you heard the man. Do your homework. Check out the shit. Check out the back catalog as well, because he has a lot of really, really dope content to go through. But yeah, man, check it out. And thank you, man, so much again for taking the time out of your day to speak to me. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll have to do this again whenever you have new work coming out.
No doubt, man. Salute. You know, it's great to be back on here again, man, and chopping it up with you. And I appreciate you reaching out again, man, too. So, you know, you already know we're going to lock in again. We're going to tap in again, man. We'll make it happen.
Awesome.